Bitcoin's on the rise and so are some cryptocurrencies. However, do not buy altcoins until you watch this video. Let's put together a roadmap, a plan for 2024, what the markets are doing, what some of the risks could be, and when would be a beautiful opportunity to be getting into altcoins. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. This is your home of macro cycle analysis covering the stock markets, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and the real estate cycle. We cover everything here because we are holistic traders to give you an understanding of what's going on in the economy. As we all know, over 90% of traders lose money, and we don't want to be on that side of those traders. This video today is going to cover two different types of traders. You could be the spot long-term trader, or maybe you are the short-term leverage trader. If that's the case, stay tuned, listen up. This video is for you. Now, we're going to cover everything from the stock markets because we are seeing absolutely crazy things happening today as some of the major stock markets correct in all-time high territory. This is going to help us identify what is going on in that first half of 2024. But first, I just want to draw your attention to the links in the video description. TIA Premium membership is your flagship product to learn more about trading and investing. And you can also get a 7-day free trial to the TIA Gann Swing Indicator, which is what I'll be using in today's video. So let's start off with some of the news headlines in the stock markets. This made me absolutely laugh my head off. This one right here, stock market news today, indexes slip from highs amid recession fears. This has been 2 years of recession fears, and each time the market has continued to go up at that point. 2022 was a correction in the bigger picture, the grand scheme of things. We had the low in 2020 and then a rise up into 2021/2022. This was a correction in the macro cycle. It was a big correction for the majority of people. I'm not going to gloss over that. But when you look at it now, every single market is at new all-time high territory. So first up, let's not get too worried about these recession fears. Now, what I've come to note is some of these news outlets are probably more fearful. They're going for the clickbait stuff more than the others, because as I look down the list of stuff that's going on today, absolute garbage. The next thing, bull run could last more than 10 years. So an AI-fueled bull run could last more than 10 years. Yet from the same media outlet, they're talking about recession fears for 2024. Don't forget, we had these recession fears in 2021, in 2022, in 2023, and we will see them in 2024. No doubts about it. The next thing is the Fed pausing rate hikes has been a reliable stock buying signal for 40 years. But of course, this time may be different. Remember, there are no differences. We just have a rhyming in the market. We've also covered on the channel, when interest rates go up, the markets also go up. When interest rates go down, the markets also go up. When interest rates pause, the markets can also go up. Yes, I can hear at the other end saying, well, that's not true. Look at 2008. Correct. But there are times in the cycle where this interest rates go up, like now, like in 2003, 4, 5, 6, interest rates were going up. And in the 90s, they were going up. And the stock markets and real estate went up. They also went down in that period. They also paused in those particular periods, and the markets all went up. So don't listen to this garbage where it talks about, but this time may be different. It's never different. Just we can look at the data and we can see it for ourselves. And like I said here, this is just another piece of misinformation telling us one thing and then also telling us another thing where we got to be fearful of some sort of recessions coming on board. What has happened in the last 24 hours is a correction. A nice little pullback here of 1.1%. But look at exactly where it pulled back from. We have the macro move to the upside, the bull market. Then we had the bear market of 2022. And now we've seen the rise up and break to new all-time highs. Now, this is for the Dow Jones futures contract here. It hit almost dead on to the point. These are huge, huge price targets here. And they almost hit to the exact point. That's pretty uncanny. It's pretty crazy that these rules that we use of Gann's, which are over 100 years old, are still working in today's markets. And the reason they work is because of human emotion. Essentially, any technical analyst, all they're doing is just charting human emotion and how humans will react to particular prices, whether they are particular resistance levels or support levels. That's essentially all we are doing here. And humans are pretty reliable in that sense. They're not really too different. no matter where they are around the world, they all get greedy and they all get extremely fearful. This time it happened dead on the 50% level, 38,008 points, and the top in the last 24 hours was 38,012 points. So we've had a test of that level. So that's the first thing. We're seeing some of these stock markets correct at these levels. The S&P 500 is also hitting a slight correction here on the daily chart. Check that out there, 1.35%. Note that the market has been up for 9 straight days. We do remember that after these particular moves, and we've talked about it many, many times on the channel, one of these special rules from Gann was a 7 to 10 day rule. Now, Michael also talks about this a lot on his channel when he is making videos and his wife isn't giving birth. But aside from that, go and check out Michael's channel. He looks at things on the short-term basis and covers this in great detail to help us with our trades. But this particular rule goes across all markets in all time frames. Daily, weekly, hourly, monthly. Whenever you see big extended moves to the upside, typically around that 7 to 10 day particularly, you'll see the market pause or even correct substantially. Now, this has been a significant move to the upside, and we've just seen another 9-day move on the E-minis here, so the S&P futures contract. So it's not really a surprise that we should see some sort of correction, especially after a significant move to the upside. Now, I'm covering all of these because this is coming together for our picture of December or Q1 of 2024, what we anticipate for the risk of the market. Also looking at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ has also done a similar thing. It has been trading in all-time high territory. It's now down 1.35%, 1.36% that is, on the last 24 hours. And it's also had a stellar run to the upside, looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 to the upside before we had that correction. So keep an eye on what happens next. We have some key levels to the downside, the previous tops, some significant swing bottoms, and of course our 50% levels, all of which we're going to continue to cover on the channel. So you know what to do, hit that subscribe button so you can remain up to date with what the markets might be doing next, and so we can clear out the noise of this absolute garbage. That was literally my first reaction when I saw a recession in the headline again. Now, if this takes a break, that of course takes some of the risk out of the market. And if we take risk out of the market, well, there might be some of that coming off the table for cryptocurrencies as well. I do hear you. Yes, some cryptos have been up, but I'm going to get to that in a moment as well, where we look at some of the, well, we're going to check out the cryptos. And although they have had significant moves, and hear me clearly, I still think the macro cycle is up and we will see very, very significant gains. We have to put ourselves into different camps, have different portfolios. You could have a short-term trading on leverage or whatever you want to do, and you might have a longer-term portfolio there, medium to long-term, where you just want to buy and hold spot cryptocurrencies, spot altcoins, meaning that you just want to buy and watch them go up. You don't want to try and trade short. If that's the case, this is definitely for you. That's why I'm saying watch this before you get into altcoins at this time in the market, especially after the traditional markets have had such a significant move out of these lows and might be looking at time to correct and just take some of the heat out of the market again. Some of that heat might be coming out of the market, but that doesn't mean the volatility could drop off. And there's still going to be fantastic opportunities for you guys who want to trade long and short. And this is what some of our traders in TIA Premium have been doing. Their first trade using the TIA indicator, as I said in the intro there, it's 7-day free trial. Learn how to use that indicator. They're just on a simple leverage here. They got a massive, massive return just following a mechanical plan here using the swing indicator. So nice and simple. And from some of the other guys here, making great gains as well. 180%, another 300%, and taking it relatively easy, testing out some of the airdropping farming purposes here, 15% to Ricardo as well. So great work to our traders there. As I said, links are in the top of the video description. Get on board before the markets go ballistic and you're trying to just play catch up. For BTC, we are looking at a top forming. Now, you might remember back at this area, I know I talk about it quite often, but here we were trying to tell everyone that it might be time to be buying up these lows are in. You remember the pro traders telling us we should see a $10,000 Bitcoin, a $3,000 Bitcoin, all this sort of nonsense at the lows. The reason why we were interested in this area being a potential low is because the price had come back relatively enough compared to previous cycles, and the timing was getting close. It was getting close when it hit to June, but it just needed a little more time. We got that time there in November. And what I mean by time is it needs a certain amount of time to come down to wash out all those players who are still trying to hold and hope, get rid of them before we can start our move to the upside. So in terms of the macro, the biggest cycle we can look at, the charts, the markets are still up. But within these periods, we do look for some corrections. And we've covered before, these corrections can take roughly 2 months. You can see from the peak here in April to the low in June, there's 63 days, 9 weeks, basically 2 months, almost to the day. Same deal happened again from July to the September low, almost dead on 2 months again. Now, if we are coming towards the peak in the market here, or at least the intermediate, not the macro, it's not going to collapse to 25 grand. But if we look at an intermediate top, then maybe we could expect a couple of months to the downside. It's a difficult one because we need to just have some of that patience and continue to watch the signals as they come in. But if that is in fact going to be the case, and maybe we push a little bit higher like we did in April, so we have the top here and then we pushed a little higher for a few weeks, like we did in June and July. See, we had a top here in June, we pushed higher for a few more weeks, only just, and then we had the 2 months down. So maybe, just maybe, a similar thing is happening again. Remember, this time is typically not different, and you might see it here. Maybe we don't press past 45 grand, but we just hang around for a few more weeks. It's happened all in 2023. It's happened before in 2019. It's happened before again in 2016. You can see these tops when it gets to that 50% level. It's pretty much trying to push up again, but the energy basically runs out of the market. So if you're an altcoin buyer, crypto buyer, you just want to buy and hold and hope for this next massive 10, 20, 100x that you've been promised by your favorite influencer, let's have a look at when that good time could be. And that time could be in 2024. And specifically, I want to nail that down a little bit further, the first half of 2024. And if we can get a little bit closer to that, maybe on the border of end of quarter one, quarter two, somewhere around that. Because if this is the top here in roughly December, maybe we push a little higher, that could give us that couple of months, 6 weeks, 9 weeks to the downside, that then we could get some good buying opportunities. You may have seen this before. I've looked at this as a roadmap for Bitcoin or altcoin investing. I am definitely looking at the next year, 2024, as being a good time for those altcoins. They've confirmed the bottom is in. And if you got in earlier in this year, fantastic. Great work to you. Different strategies, different plans here. If you were trading it like our traders here, even better. You're doing great gains. So this is not to take away from anyone or change anyone's plan. That's just the way I'm seeing the market and the way I play the market based on my own risk parameters. So looking at the market here, that is looking like a reasonable time for next year. So early in 2024, based on some of the timing, based on some of the risk that might be coming off the table in the short term, because we've seen new highs on the stock markets. Now, there is just one more market that we want to see a new all-time high on. This is the long-term chart looking at the S&P and what's happened with its all-time highs and Bitcoin's move. So we're getting very close to that new all-time high here, as we covered in yesterday's video. So this is just another piece to the puzzle. Now, going over to the total cryptocurrency market cap, total 3, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. What am I seeing? Well, I think we're in a similar period to this deal. This is a monthly chart. So we're looking at the bigger picture here. And we've had a nice move up. This is, for me, the confirmation that we are out of the bear market. We're out of that first initial accumulation and we're on the rise. We've been on the rise for several months, now up to 4 months, and it could be time for a correction. We could be in a similar place to where we were back in 2019. You can see we're on the move to the downside, and really overall, it was almost near the bottom. And we've almost done something exactly the same. You can see it had a little bit of a bounce. It started to come down again. There's your bounce. It started to come down again. Had a little bounce again at that bottom. So basically putting in a double bottom here. A green month occurred and then it started to head down again. We're in this bit of a move down. Maybe we break down over this month or next month. But that basically puts us very close to the final bottom, which would be a fantastic opportunity for altcoins, cryptocurrencies, and loading up at that time. Now, that doesn't mean altcoins are going to skyrocket after that point. Another piece of the puzzle that we've been putting together for our altcoin portfolios is the new Bitcoin all-time high. When that occurred, most altcoins of the previous cycle went down for one more month against their Bitcoin value because, well, Bitcoin was taking the spotlight and heading to new all-time highs. So their Bitcoin values were getting depleted. Their Bitcoin values were coming down. The USD values might be going up, but the Bitcoin values were going down. But the signal on that is, after that point, basically the month following that, everything skyrocketed. Altcoins went ballistic, and they went ballistic against their Bitcoin values while Bitcoin was also going up. So you get that double whammy of extra boost to the upside. You're getting huge USD values because Bitcoin is going up, and your altcoin is going up even faster at that time. And they are the great gains. That is the altcoin season that many are waiting for. We have had a fantastic time over the last couple of months from October to now with a lot of altcoins going up, and they've been going up against their Bitcoin value as well, which is the most important. But I think we're due for a bit of a correction after this particular gain. But that is the confirmation that the lows are in, and we're probably going to see higher prices. Now, this is where the big question comes down for a lot of folks. Are you a spot and long only trader, or are you a leverage trader? Or are you both? Do you have two different portfolios? If you're only trading spot and you're only wanting to go long, the question you got to ask yourself is, will altcoin prices ever go back to the November 2023 prices? Because some of them have continued up further and some altcoins have dropped away from that price. So ask yourself, will it go back to those prices? And if you think it will, then it's a pretty straightforward answer. This is like an if-then thing. Then you would wait for those prices again. Pick the altcoins that's going to happen on for you, and then you wait for those prices to happen. So it's a very clear question that you give yourself so that it's easier to invest later and you don't have to get sucked into the hype and the FOMO of the coin going up. I've got Solana here as the example. This is the pricing here for Solana in November. Now, if you think Solana is never going to come back to these prices, then the game is, well, I just have to buy at this price here at $81 because, well, it's just not going to come back to these levels below $60. But if you think that this run is a little overextended, then the toughest game of all comes in, the patience for this market to correct over this next period because of everything that I think is looking likely, where we might see a bit of a pause on the stock markets. And then we start to see a little bit of that fear come into the markets that just allow us to drop back down. Then that gives us that buying opportunity in the first half of 2024. So you can easily now that you've answered this question here, will the prices come back? And more importantly, which trader are you, or are you both and have the two different portfolios? Then you can start to assess where the prices could come back. And we looked at that recently as well, where we're just looking at, well, what has it done in the past? In this particular dip, it did 69%, so basically around 70%. And in that previous dip there, which doesn't look like anything on a linear chart, but on a logarithmic chart, you can see it was 80% drop. Well, if it does somewhere between 70 and 80% from the current high prices here of 85, well, 70% brings Solana back down to $25. 80% brings it down to $16. Now, hold your horses. I'm not saying that that will happen, and I don't think it will happen. I don't think we're going to see Solana back under these levels here for a 70% drop. So let's keep it a little more conservative and say, well, what if it was just a 60% drop? Well, there's $33. What if it was only a 50% drop? There's $41. And what if it was only a 40% drop? Well, there's $50, and it brings us back into that zone of November. So it's just about the patience. Now, one might ask again, well, there's a lot of ifs and thens in trading, remember? Markets can keep going. And if they keep going, where are those next levels that it could find some resistance? Resistance levels across any cryptocurrency that you are looking at. Could be anything in your list. You're just going to look back for psychological levels. Maybe it's $100 for your altcoin. Maybe it's $1. Maybe it's 10 cents. Whatever those round numbers are, the psychological levels is where we'll look for. Then we're going to look for monthly swing tops, very key significant levels. So in this case for Solana, it's roughly around $143. So then we could take a measure from that point and see, well, where's a 60% drop? It'll be back into this November zone. Where is a 40% drop? Well, it's at these current prices. So in that case, maybe it is better to buy at this time, but you never know. And that's the point of trading. You need to be preparing and planning for any situation that may come. Now, what has Solana done in this particular cycle? Well, from the top here in July to the bottom, it did 46%. In the previous top to the bottom in June, it did a 53%. So somewhere around that 40 to 50% might be reasonable for Solana. So it could come back into this zone between 30 and 50 bucks. Now, if you never think that is possible for your altcoin, think again. We're already starting to see that on many other altcoins. It's the similar sort of pattern. They're starting to reverse. They're getting hit at their 50% levels of previous ranges, which is a beautiful area for resistance, and then they're starting to retreat. So in this case, you can see that this particular crypto is back in the zone of the prices of November. And there are many examples like this across the board. And it's up to you to go through the other thousands and thousands, even millions of altcoins to try and figure out where those levels are. Some of the favorites of the past are also having a pullback. You can see this on Casper. You can see it on Link. It's back at the prices that it was in November, and it wasn't able to push up any further through that period of when all of the influencers were getting feelings in their jellies. And you can see some of these markets have pulled back, well, the majority of them have, and then the odd few have continued to go. So always come back to the game that you're trying to play. Are you trying to play the spot long trader here, looking to buy and hold for months, maybe even a couple of years? Or are you trying to play the short-term leverage trader where you're just looking at to get in and out quickly on the hourly chart or maybe on the daily chart? Once you can identify that, then you can answer this question here, and then the rest of the game becomes that little bit easier, so you don't get sucked into the FOMO and the greed and the fear and all those sort of emotions that kick into gear when markets continue to rise quickly or they fall quickly. Because without a doubt, this time's not different, and we'll likely see the fear kick back into the market sometime in the first half of 2024. At least that's what I think, according to my own analysis. Don't forget to use the link in the video description for the 7-day free trial, and of course a TIA premium membership where you can get on board with some of our traders making great gains over there as well. Appreciate all of your time and support. I'll see you back here at the next video. Until then, take care and peace out.